Today's talk is titled Community, How Crowded is Your Table? To be delivered by Laura DeLoye. Laura DeLoye is originally from Ohio, lived for 15 years in North Carolina, and has lived in California Central Coast for 12 years. She is grateful for getting her share in the wonderful extended communities from each of these places. Her training and degree as a board-certified music therapist has worked for 25 plus years in the field, primarily with older adults with dementia and their caregivers. She is currently the program and education manager for the San Luis Obispo County Office of Alzheimer's Association, where she provides dementia caregiver education, coordinates care group support groups, provides care consultations, and provides information and resources throughout our community. Laura, please come on up. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Jan, for that beautiful rendition. So, this title of community is, you all have this, you know it. You live it. Sorry, I'm getting my notes so I don't veer too far off. But in hearing all of the joys and concerns, it's all about your community here. And so I'm not here to tell you about how to make a better community, but I will speak to both of the song, which was the jumping off point for this, as well as some of the work that we're doing with the Alzheimer's Association, and of course, how to expand your community and get involved with the Alzheimer's Association. But so the song that Jan just brought for us it's called Crowded Table, and it's by High Women, which is it references the renowned, it always sounds funny to say that, but it's by High Women, which references the renowned highwaymen. And so it was formed, Brandi Carlile and the women there, to address the underrepresentation of women in country music. So check out High Women. But that song has been one of my favorites, and I first learned it or heard it in 2020 at the beginning of COVID, and it's just been one of those things, like, as we have been isolated and coming back in and then going back into isolate and all of that stuff, that crowded table aspect. So I'll go through the lyrics of it. But I want a house with a crowded table and a place by the fire for everyone. That's my favorite line. Let us take on the world while we're young and able, and bring us back together when the day is done. It's about acceptance, working together, making room for everyone to be who they are. Scooching aside to have another one come in and feel the warmth of the fire. You can hold my hand when you need to let go. I can be your mountain when you're feeling valley low. I can be your street light showing you the way home. This physical presence, the thoughtful phone calls, the texts, the emails, the gifts or GIFs, however you want to say that. I particularly like the Who is Awesome and the Kermit one. We got to have a cat one in there too. But physical presence, and just, you are there for others, and we are here for each other in big ways, like helping with the recovery of climate events, of floods and fires and termites and new roofs. And then in small ways, like a cup of coffee shared and a meal prepared or a hug. And we know that those are not small. Those can be very, very big. But we are those mountains and streetlights for each other. If we want a garden, we're going to have to sow the seeds, plant a little happiness, and let the roots run deep. If it's love that we give, then it's love that we reap. The elements of a sense of community, that's what those words remind me of. Membership, and whether we're in a community of UUCC or in our neighborhoods or towns, regions, states, interests. What are those boundaries that bind us together? Whether that's sports fans of Dodgers or Giants or Red Sox, or I got a plant in the audience on that one. The door is always open. Your picture's on my wall. Everyone's a little broken and everyone belongs. Communities have a way of rallying around each other when that support is needed, and being a part of a community gives us the opportunity to pour into others' lives. We need to feel a sense of belonging. We really need to feel a sense of belonging at any point in our lives, all the way through. And that's, I've heard it so many times in different reiterations, from the opening hymn to even the blessings of and joys and concerns too. When we have that shared emotional connection, there's that definitive element for true community, that deep bond, that bond that you know what it is when you experience it or see it or feel it, right? It's strengthened through the community experiences. It's such a blessing to belong somewhere. And I know that we all have a variety of communities that we belong to, not only UUCC, not only Cambria, not only the Follies or music places or, whatever that might be. But just being able to walk into a door, whether physical or metaphorical, and know that you're home. And the last part is, I want a house with a crowded table and a place by the fire for everyone. Let us take on the world while we're young and able, and bring us back together when the day is done. So all of those communities. This is part of my community. This was for my 50th birthday last year. And I have been fortunate to be a part of a variety of communities. Those that, I give my life energy to, and I receive that in support. And our communities have become identifiers. So this was at a winery. I'm actually not even a wine club member there, but it's a family and a variety of folks throughout the Central Coast. And, having moved here 12 years ago and knowing one person and having one other contact to say, you should go meet this woman, who is Lorianne here. I look back at this and I'm so blessed, and I know that. And some other types of communities that I'm a part of, my family, my immediate family, my mom and dad in the middle, brothers and in-laws there. This was at my parents' 70th wedding anniversary in Ohio. It will be 2 years ago this past summer. And also with my work with the Alzheimer's Association. These are just ideas of communities that we're parts of. This one that has the huge amount of people on the bottom right is the Sigma Kappa sorority at Cal Poly. And the Alzheimer's Association is their national philanthropy. And so they come out with 200 young women. And it's such a representation to me of, yes, it's Alzheimer's, and yes, it's a disease as we age that can happen, but it affects us all. So I think that's where, particularly this crowded table song that comes back, we can take on the world while we're young and able, but we're still young and able, and bringing us back together. Music, you may recognize another gentleman in the back row on the left side. He will be playing the same instrument here shortly. But music has also been something that has flowed through my life. So this is a swing band that we have been a part of. It just played at the Paso Robles Pioneer Museum. And, however we might come together, our purple shoes, whatever it might be. And again, music, just being out in the community, in the concerts, and also a variety of colleagues, just kind of different things. This was, sports folks, that provides different communities. This was the US soccer team, watching that on TV. Never thought I would be a part of that community. Also I'm a breast cancer survivor. And so this was just happened to be one of those shots. And I had my Lara's Love Posse, and I was surrounded by that kind of care and concern. So if we move into, in my work, I speak a lot about community, because whenever there's a person with dementia and caregivers, I like to have plural in that caregivers, because this is not a disease that can be cared for by one person, so it's really helping folks know that they're not alone. And so some of these few slides that we have here are ones that we use in our education, and about a healthcare team. Many times caregivers feel very isolated, so that's part of our work, is to help them remain connected. And, there are likely suspects, of course, folks that we see whenever we think, oh, something's kind of going awry, what's happening. So our physicians or nurses, pharmacists are really important. A lot of times I think we drop off that prescription, but we don't always talk to that pharmacist and say, hey, here's some other things that are going on in my life. But they have the knowledge of the pharmaceutical things more so oftentimes than a physician, because there's just so much information. Social workers, geriatric care managers, hospitals, clinics, all of that. So those are kind of typical suspects. And then we expand that community out to our family, friends, work settings, volunteer organizations that we might be a part of. And, oftentimes I hear from caregivers, well, I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to bother them. I don't want, my adult children are so busy. They've got families of their own. Oh, my neighbors, they've got a lot going on too. If we think about that in reverse, if I had children who I didn't want to bother, they would probably be pretty furious. I don't know, maybe that's probably right, furious, if they didn't know what was going on. Or if I had a best friend who was dealing with something and I could help, even just to be that listening ear, and you don't know, it's like, tell me, please tell me, let me bring dinner, let's go for a walk, let me clean your house, whatever those kinds of things are. So those are points that we don't always consider when we're wrapped up in the things of daily life, when things become too overwhelmed. Did I move that? I didn't move that. Okay. Let's see. So, and certainly, knowing what to do as family and friends. How do we help somebody? How do we help caregivers? I mean, certainly I'm speaking more in a sense of working with families who are caring for someone with dementia, but it goes in whatever realms, we're caring for. But being caregivers who feel socially isolated because people may pull away because you don't know what to say, what to do. What are those strange comments that you might hear because the realities are different, or what they might or might not remember. But certainly being able to still meet with a person, going together to a walk on the beach. And maybe it's not having a big, huge social gathering that you might used to have done, but maybe it is having 4 people together and thinking, okay, we're going to spend 30 minutes instead of 2 hours. So some of those things for a person with dementia can be much easier to handle, and then also still gets the support for the caregiver too. This is not, am I done? What about those? Okay, sorry. Oh, do I go now? I don't get access. Okay, cool. That's all right. So certainly helping to support caregivers, things like making phone calls. I have one woman who she just has such a list of phone calls to make and things to take care of, and she doesn't have the space to do that. And so being able to, provide 30 minutes of hanging out with her husband, or maybe helping to make some of those phone calls and getting getting the information that's needed. And then also our community care team. So, we've got the person with Alzheimer's or dementia and their care partner, the healthcare community, family and friends and work, community source resources. So like us, Alzheimer's Association, we have Coast Caregiver Resource Center that covers this area, and I can chat with you more about that, but they do provide some support, some respite, some counseling, all at no cost. It's funding that comes from the state. There's no economic limit or anything like that. Dignity Health also has some care management resources as well. Just finding some of those supportive types of organizations. And I know many times people are like, there's not enough resources in our community. We're small towns, we're rural, we're all of this. And there are out there. There are some resources. Many times we don't know about them until we need to know about them, right? But also with the Alzheimer's Association, we have support groups throughout the county and education classes about dementia, what kind of communication is effective in working or talking with somebody with dementia. We have a helpline number. It's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365, and that you will talk to somebody live, even if it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you wake up and you can't go back to sleep and you're like, okay, what do I need to do about this? And is this the appropriate way? Who can I talk to? That you can call them. We also have Trial Match, which is basically a matching, like a dating service, but it's a match for whether or not you have dementia, but you put in your information, then you are hooked up with different studies, and it can be around the country. It doesn't have to all be, because we don't have that huge research hospital that's happening here in Cambria. But we do have UCSF, we have Stanford, we have UCLA, and so there are some major research studies that are happening in those areas. But it can also be things where maybe you take a blood test, with your local doctor here, and it's sent off, or there's some types of behavioral types interactions and things to learn about too. And I would be remiss if I would not ask for volunteers as a nonprofit organization. So, and I spoke about the caregiver support group. I actually am going to be leading that starting in May here in Cambria. It's the second Monday of the month, from 3:30 to 5, and it's at the Cambria Connection, 1075 Main Street, I think is the address. I do have more information. I have a few sheets of support groups and education on the banister back there. But welcome to come to that for support as well. And if you would like to volunteer, I am looking for, because I do live and work in SLO, so I love to come up to Cambria, but we are a volunteer-driven organization. So ideally, I'm not facilitating that support group forever, but we are looking for support group facilitators, community educators, are helping with awareness, coming out and speaking like this, or at Rotary, or any other of the different organizations around town, because we know that there's a need. So you can contact me, or you can contact Catherine, who's my supervisor, but we can get you hooked up with that. And of course, we have fundraisers, the longest day, which we have turned Cambria, parts of it at least, purple in the month of June last year and this year. So it is around the solstice, June 21st. It's a do-it-yourself DIY fundraiser. I know last year Robbins had a purple dessert, so for the month of June, and they would donate some of the funds to that from that dessert when that was purchased. Just different things. You could have a yoga class and have an inflatable unicorn come to hang out with you. And then we also have the Walk to End Alzheimer's, which is in November. It's November 4th, and it begins and ends in San Luis Obispo in the Mission Plaza. Doesn't mean that you can't have your own team up here in Cambria and do similar kind of things. So happy to talk more about that. And then this is my contact information too. I love the idea of a crowded table, and I would love you all around that crowded table all the time. I know sometimes it's a little bit daunting to have an entire crowded table, but what you all do here together and how you do volunteer and share with one another. Just, I encourage you to do that. And if you ever have questions about dementia or where to get support, I am here and happy to come back and visit anytime. So, thank you.
Thank you.